This video is sponsored by Bityard. With over 400 cryptos to trade on their spot, perpetual coin futures, USDT futures, with leverage of 1x to up to 125x, you can trade foreign exchange, commodities like gold, silver and oil, and traditional markets like Nasdaq, all with some of the lowest fees available on any trading platform. You can use their copy trader to copy other traders with better performance than you, or you can become a copy trader yourself and earn a few extra percent from the people that follow you. Plus, you got 9 out of 10 stars from the Coin Bureau guy. Bityard. Hello everybody, welcome back. We'll make a quick video on Bitcoin really. There's not a great deal to say about altcoins really. It was all more or less said yesterday, looking for a potential setup for altcoins if we continue to break down for Bitcoin dominance. But as dominance more or less balances on that 20 weekly, it's difficult to really give it the nod in either direction. And so with that in mind, I suppose the best thing to do is to wait for altcoins. If they are going to move, I suppose you can treat their charts on their individual merit, especially if they've got strong tether or dollar pairs. But the consolidations from their current 50% moves, basically from the bottom to last week's high, you know, they've all been done, and that's why I said, you know, effectively, you know, let's take that for what it's worth and just bag that 50% gain, and we'll see if we can re-enter at a later position. So let's think about Bitcoin. So we're looking at Bitcoin here in a 4-hourly. So before we start the 4-hourly, we'll just go to a weekly. So I was doing the live stream last night, and I was absolutely devastated to see that the money flow index is not going to create any divergence anymore, and is absolutely just dropping out the absolute sky here. I mean, it's digging a hole so deep into the earth that it's going to strike oil soon. Which, well, I suppose maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing, but that's just a metaphor. Obviously it can't do that, and what this generally means is that selling is continuing to a large extent, more than it would ever really require to you know, for any reason. So seeing that on a weekly is so nasty that we should expect nothing but lower prices between now and maybe September, October, November, which is when we're marking or looking to mark the cycle lows. I know that we were favouring the everything bounce, and that worked to an extent, but the way that Dixie and oil look at the moment, which is basically not breaking down anymore, we can't really expect the inverse effect to continue for stocks and indices. So I'm going to monitor the opening bell today, 2:30. I'm going to see where we go from there, and then decide whether or not to close those stocks and indices, obviously in profit still, but I don't want to see them, you know, get wiped out or go negative. I would hate to see that. Obviously there was a bit of selling going on yesterday, but it's been a decent bounce across the board for those stocks, and maybe it continues, but I don't see it wanting to continue at this particular moment in time. Because, like I say, we were looking for a further breakdown for oil, and if we think about everything on a weekly, which is the most important way to look at things for larger continued moves, oil managed to close above the 20 weekly last week, and is obviously firing up more and more and more as we speak at the moment. So it does look like it wants to revisit its previous highs, which is 120. So the reason I like to talk about oil these days is that I'm trying to number crunch in my own little mind here, my walnut, the CPI data. Same with the Dixie. I mean, the Dixie's had bearish divergence since forever, but it's not helped it because you can't fight the Fed. I see that Michael Berry has been recently talking about the deflationary and some bullwhip effect, which actually, you know, because I was blissfully unaware of this bullwhip effect, would actually have a positive effect on markets. You know, it would end up basically making markets extremely volatile. So I mean, you know, as far as the time horizon for something like that is concerned, it's difficult to pinpoint, but I'm still in line with the idea that inflation may have peaked this month, but I'm not going to hold out for that, because I was looking for the details on oil and Dixie to really give us the heads up. So the next CPI data is likely to still remain more or less high. It could even be higher. Who the hell even knows anymore? But Mr. Berry reckons it'll be down sharp and fast towards the end of the year, so we'll see how it goes. Right, so let's focus on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is so boring. It's the most boring range again, but we do definitely toy with the idea realistically of moving it back into the $19,000 zones. So if we think about where that could take us, I'm just talking about the lower 19,000, which is around these bodies here, these tops around here, and maybe actually touch 19,000 itself. potentially for what could be a bounce from there, because the selling can continue. Obviously it will. We are pointing down on everything. The thing is that the momentum matches the price, which basically doesn't give anybody any particular edge, but we have to accept that the chart is currently weak and that we're, I suppose, dancing around the $20,000 zone as well, which I suppose is a psychological support. You can even see that here, really, but it's not particularly strong, I would say. It's just a psychological number. I would imagine that if this were to break down, which it probably will be, I suppose, given the way that the Bollinger Bands are stretching at the moment, outside of being this boring range over the last few days, really, that a wick could drive us down to that level, and maybe we get picked up from there. Again, this is a very untradeable kind of area for me. No clear signs of, I suppose, horrendous breakdown, as the sellers on the weekly have been pretty significant. The daily money flow index is up, to be honest with you. It is up. So this is why I do favour a bounce from these zones before I break down. But recognising that the cycle is still far from complete, and the earliest would imagine a bottom form would be around September. There's a lot that can go on around from here, and if indexes are going down and oil and Dixie are still going up, we shouldn't expect a great deal from Bitcoin, I would say. If we look at this on the daily, though, and we think about this 19,000 as a potential area for a bounce, then yeah, we could move ourselves up to 22, which is our center of the Bollinger Band, maybe 22.5, which is the 20 weekly, 21 exponential on the daily here. These are all areas of genuine possibility for Bitcoin, but if that were to happen, I'd be unsure if altcoins would be carried to the same extent. I think the next move would most likely, just looking at the dominance chart at the moment, most likely be driven by Bitcoin, and we'll see an increase in Bitcoin dominance, even if everything moves up with Bitcoin. But again, today is definitely a sit back, watch the telly kind of trading day. Do some chores, do your hoovering, anything other than sitting and looking at the charts, because the short-term time frames don't particularly match that of the weekly, which is certainly a sorry sight. And the daily offers a bounce, and the 4-hourly, would suggest potential bouncy zone as well, but not without further downside first. So bouncing from this area, I'd be very, very surprised to see that. Bouncing from this area, way, way, way more likely. So as we dip our toes deeper into the 19,000s, obviously that's going to feel pretty scary, but it might be an opportunity for what could be a decent little trade, if that's your bag. 15%, maybe 20%, and it doesn't look much, does it? But we're used to seeing such large moves that we forget that actually from here to here is actually quite decent. So there is a potential 15 to 20% bounce on the cards, but not before we revisit the lower $19,000 zone. Anyway, there's no need to talk any further on that. I would be looking for that for a potential bounce. Am I going to be in the right place at the right time to trade it? Probably not, but if I were to be, I probably would give it a go. Right, thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day, and take it easy.